Yeah, I've been really fascinated by, in terms of comedy and political comedy, who the Trump administration has targeted and who they're kind of stepped back and let get away with it. And, thinking a lot about Paramount, which has Colbert on the one hand, which got canceled, and South Park on the other, which got another $1.5 billion to make more episodes, even though they are arguably going against Trump harder than anyone else. And he hasn't said a word about that. How do you explain that or think about that, where something that is it a lesson about going even further than?
No, I mean, I think the lesson is even starker, which is nothing shuts Trump up like money. He can argue that Stephen Colbert isn't getting the ratings and isn't making the money, even though the show is brilliant. He can go, but that it's not that Stephen Colbert is slipping in the ratings. It's that the whole infrastructure of late night television.
He's number one in a system that has come down a lot.
Yeah. South Park, not only does it make insane amounts of money, it gets insane ratings, and Trump can only be so angry at that, because what Trump ultimately will respect, even if it doesn't respect him, is something where the numbers are through the roof and the money is through the roof. And that's the one thing he quails at. So again, with him, he can't look at South Park and see how brilliant it is. And he can't look at something like John Oliver and see how equally brilliant it is. All he can think of in terms of, look at this guy's numbers, look at their numbers. And that's the only way he sees the world. So something that is massive and as undeniable as South Park, both in quality, which people like you and I can see, but then in numbers and money, which Trump can see, he just falls silent. He doesn't know what to say about that. If Colbert was making South Park money and getting South Park eyes on him, Trump wouldn't know what to do. He could be like, and it was very interesting how when South Park came out and it was so brutal and so hilarious about Trump didn't say anything about it. It was, he sent out all of his lieutenants and toadies to then start trying to pick it apart, because ultimately he wants them on his side. He wants every A-lister to perform for him and hang out with him. So the only, the people that he gets angry at are the people that won't kiss his ass and help fill his coffers. So I'm taking a very roundabout way to go, he only sees the world in terms of money and numbers, and that's it. So South Park is confounding for him, because they hate me, but look at the numbers. There's nothing I can say.
Do you think that satire like South Park or like the late night shows is effective in changing people's perception of the Trump administration or the people in power?
That's hard to say, only because the only effective satire right now is satire that is as insane as the time we are living in.
That's the challenge.
But we are living in such hallucinatory times that in order to capture it, you need to create something that feels hallucinatory, and thus it doesn't quite land on you the way it should, because it is so crazy. You can almost discount it a little bit. Now, obviously, there are people, I think, that have seen South Park or listened to John Oliver or Colbert that maybe were like, oh, I didn't really think of it in those terms. But you also have to remember, when people say that Trump followers and MAGA people are lost, they are not lost. This is the only time in their lives they've ever felt found and seen and understood. And people will hang on to that until the bitter end. They will never, ever let go of that. Even if you show them on a chart how this guy is robbing you, they're like, he was nice to me and no one's ever been nice to me. No one's ever accepted my horribleness. I've found people that are like me, and I've never had this. And I'm never letting this go. And they'll die with him if they have to. There's a certain portion that you have to just, that's why it drives me, the Democrats drive me up a wall, this whole reaching across. Yes, you should try to reach across and work with them, but also you need to acknowledge there are some people on both sides, I think way more on their side, that are just permanently unreachable. And By the way, that is another thing that makes this country great, that you can have a chunk of people that are unreachable and the country still functions.
Yeah. It does seem from the outside of the comedy world that there is a big divide over politics, especially since this last election, the 2024 election. Is that something that you feel, or is that a manufactured thing that is not as real as it seems?
I think it's partially. I think a lot of people that are outside of comedy don't look at comedy and understand the way that comedians actually relate to one another. There's, comedians. One of the things that makes comedians good is hanging out with people that call you on your shit and, bust your balls and point out stupid shit you're doing. I've done a lot of lame stuff as a comedian, a lot of stuff that hasn't aged well, a lot of stuff that was ill-advised. That's part of being an artist. And you have people around you that go, that was stupid. And you go, yeah, you know what? Fuck, that was. But there seems to be a certain section of comedians right now that they do not want to be called out on anything, or can't roll with the, oh yeah, I fucked up. I didn't realize, now I know better. There's this weird culture now of no apologies ever. No, I've never understood that way of living. If you don't get to your life, if you get to the end of your life and you go, I got no regrets, then you did something wrong. You fuck up. Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. But there's a lot of mediocrities that saw that there's a shortcut to success if you just appeal to this group that will, and they only expect you to say 5 or 6 different things. And if you can say those 5 or 6 different variations of a joke to them, they'll fill arenas for you. So that's very tempting. I mean, look, when I was a young comedian trying to break through, that would have been very, very tempting to me. And a lot of these guys are actually very talented performers and could, develop into genuinely amazing comedians. And I think some of them will come out on the other side of this and go, oh, now I know better, and they'll grow from it. I think other people won't. Every new movement in comedy creates people that see it as easy blueprint. That's all I got to do and I'm successful. The same thing happened with alt comedy. There was a hack alt comedy playbook, and there were a lot of alt comedy hothouse flowers that would thrive in these alt comedy rooms that were very, very popular for a year or so. And then when it came time to actually get out on the road in front of an audience that you've got to win over every single night, some of them couldn't do it, and some of them survived. And I think the same thing is going to happen with a lot of these kind of flirting with the alt-right, flirting with fascism comedians that you see out there. Some of them will grow and break through it and go, there will be one of them. I don't know who it'll be, but one of them will do an amazing show, either a one-person show or a Netflix special, where they will really actually embrace, here is how bad it got for me. Here is what I truly believe. Here were the rewards I was getting. And then here's how I came out the other side of that. That's going to be an insane, very human recovery story that one of these presently alt-right grifter comedians is going to tell, and it will actually, I think, open up a lot of people's eyes in the next generation. I don't know who it's going to be, but I have high hopes for a handful of people.
I was going to say, who are you thinking of that you think might do something like that?
Again, I don't want to. Well, here's two. I don't want to name names because I don't want to jinx it. There's people on the other side of the political spectrum of mine that, no, I don't agree with their views, but I can see objectively that some of them are good comedians. Yeah. There's always a big, loud, mediocre, soft center of comedy that will end up being forgettable and will not last. And you see the ones, it's the Italo Calvino thing. The world is inferno. Your job, you got to spot the parts that aren't inferno and try to save them. So I think there's a couple of people that will come out the other side of that and really, really surprise us. I'm not someone who's rooting for people I want people to grow and be amazing and do creative stuff, especially in my field. I don't like I don't like where a lot of comedy is right now in terms of who has control over it and who has the bullhorn. But I've also seen that bullhorn pass from a lot of different hands, and I know that it never stays anywhere forever. So I'm just sitting back and doing my comedy and doing my shows for the people that like me, and I'm going to wait to see where the bullhorn ends up next. Right now, no, the bullhorn is not in a good place as far as stand-up is concerned. But I see so many amazing comedians that aren't getting all the attention right now because they're not doing their fucking evil outrage bullshit, that are actually doing brilliant comedy and are going to grow and be amazing and really guide us to where comedy's got to go if it's going to survive.
I think of Bill Burr as someone who has had a really interesting political evolution, which to me has made it so disappointing the way he really leaned into defending his appearance at the Riyadh Comedy Festival. First of all, I was curious if you got the invite to go over there for that, and just what you made of the reactions to it, who did it. I mean, this is a really stark example of this divide that I was alluding to, I think.
Yeah, look, I didn't get the invite, and like Mark Maron so eloquently said, it's very easy to judge when you have not gotten the invite. And without tooting my own horn, I've been offered similar things. I was offered a non-ID VO campaign for basically a defense contractor. This was about 10 years ago. And I was like, yeah, that's really, and it was amazing money, but I just was like, this is going to blow, like blast chunks out of my soul if I take it. Like I know in the long run. And
the people who know you best would have known it was you.
Exactly. And it's just like, I don't want that on my head. And there's been some other speaking engagements recently that I can say that there seems to be a lot of whitewashing attempts going on with evil regimes, both overseas and here. And I know a lot of big and smaller comedians that turned down Riyadh for the same reason. They're just like, how in the fuck can you say yes to this? This is the easiest choice you could possibly make. But yeah, I really stand with people like Mark Maron and David Cross and Atsko, people like that really, they said it so eloquently. Like there's just certain things that it shouldn't even be a mortal wrestling match. It should be pretty easy, So that whole incident was so ugly because there was like, as people that I love that went over there, man. And, what's the line from Rules of the Game? Renoir's Rules for the Game. The worst thing about life is that everyone has their reasons. And it's the worst thing. Everyone has their reasons, man.
Yeah. I think the thing that was tough was that it was so clear that the reason for most of these people or all these people was money, because we knew that they were getting offered these huge sums. And then they came back and said, actually, it was this great thing. And it was, bridging the divide between cultures and all this bullshit that didn't really pass the smell test.
I just get so sad when I think about that. Can we not talk about it? I know exactly what you're talking about. When I saw just like, I think I speak for a lot of people, and I'm just like, you wanted the money, just take the money and shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Just take the money and try to do something good with it. Go do something good with it. Just, oh, fuck.
Yeah. And move on.
So depressing. Fuck.
Let's talk about something less depressing.
I'm sure there were artists in the 80s that had to watch people that they respected go play Sun City. So what the fuck are you going to do? Just make your stand and then got to let them go. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. I'll always say hi to them when I see them. I love them. I don't want them to. God, this is a bummer.